Good morning, grinders. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD, BlenderHD. You're going to follow me on Twitter. And it's Wednesday, August 14th. We'll be taking a look at tonight's 11-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings. Remember, it's an earlier start time than normal, 6:35 p.m. Eastern lock, which means around 5 p.m. or so, Grinders Live will be on this channel. Dean and the guys will be breaking down the slate in much more detail, followed by Kevin Roth and Crunch Time, probably around 6:05 p.m., giving you all the news up until lock, including the weather update, which I don't think there's much to be concerned about. I guess maybe a little bit in the Northeast, but it looks green-yellow. Looks like, for the most part, shouldn't have any weather problems tonight. Joined with me is Alex SONTY of the Fangraphs and our baseball content here. Hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. You know, much like the thummy thumbs, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. Alex, we got an 11-game slate, so let's get to it as quickly as possible. Especially since it is a wide open slate. It is. I think there's maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 2 or 3 clear stacks, teams that we should be targeting hitting wise, and then a whole mess of, if they don't get there, there's a whole mess of teams that we could attempt to stack, and then pitching is it. I would say 2/3 of the pitchers on the slate are viable, and I'm not excited to play any of them.
I was just about to say, I feel like 2/3 are guys I don't want to play but can play. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I mean, I think the standout on pitching today, like we have the projected ownership obviously early here at 11:30, 11 in the morning. Kind of spread out. Robbie Ray being like the chalkiest out of the bunch, 8,600 against Atlanta in San Francisco. He has the highest strikeout prop on the board at 6.5. I mean, that's a recurring theme on this slate, is that many of the pitchers on the slate have around a 4 or 5 strikeout prop. So it's not like we're getting like these high variance situations where it's guy could strike out 8 or he could give up 8 runs. Just a lot of middle of the pack stuff. Atlanta obviously is not the greatest of matchups, but I mean, for a lefty facing Atlanta, in San Francisco, Atlanta only has a 3.6 implied run total. I mean, Robbie Ray is the name of the rule that Dave Potts has, right? Dave Potts, Jesus good, $1 Million Musings, 2-time Millie winner, Fantasy Baseball Hall of Famer. He writes that article every weekday for premium members. So if you become a premium member, click on the link in the description, get $40 off your first month. Robbie Ray chalk. Typically, the Robbie Ray rule is when Robbie Ray is chalk, you fade him. And when Robbie Ray is it's not chalk, then you play him because he tends to be a little bit volatile. But maybe not in recent years or since coming back. 8,600 is a pretty nice price. I mean, there's no expensive pitching, but 8,600 is a pretty nice price for a guy that has 7+ strikeout upside in a good ballpark. Is there any reason, are there any warts to not play Robbie Ray today?
The home runs and Braves have a lot of power. I mean, that's the short argument right there. And 36%. So, I mean, the actual, I think maybe, am I getting the rule wrong? I thought the Dave Potts rule was when Robbie Ray is chalk, you stack against him.
What do you mean you stack
against him? And you stack against him.
When
he's chalk, you fade him and you stack against him.
Maybe that's rule 1B or whatever. But
maybe,
typically him is like Robbie
Yeah.
Ray's 60% owned. Well, you don't play him then, but when he's 6% owned, that's when you play him. But I mean, we see in his recent game logs. I mean, he does have starts where, against the A's, where 3 home runs allowed. I mean, even against at Cincinnati, he gave up 2 home runs, but he still struck out 9. So you get the good and the bad with Robbie Ray. I mean, pitching in San Francisco helps.
Helps a lot. Helps a ton for him.
Right. He's 2 points clear median projection of the next projected pitcher in the bat. And he's like 3 points clear of like a mess of like 10 other pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say that he projects so far above everyone else that it's like plug in Robbie Ray and then move on, like with most of your lineups. Like I wouldn't be playing Robbie Ray, and if I had 20 lineups today, it's not like, oh, just lock in Robbie Ray in 20 and move on. I think the pitching combinations on this slate could be endless. So I think for that purpose, I don't know about you, because I'm big in psychological factors and how people react, like human beings, not just numbers. I get the sense, because I look at the rest of the pitching on this slate, and I'm not enamored by it. I get the sense that it's possible that Robbie Ray maybe could be 35, 40% owned today on DraftKings, where you have to use 2 pitchers, because I take a look. It's like if I don't play Robbie Ray, I'm playing 2 of a mess of these guys, and I don't know. A lot of these guys that we're going to talk about in this mess that I say, are either subpar pitchers in good matchups or pretty decent pitchers in bad matchups. So that's why they all project kind of like in this 12 to 14 point mean projection type of range. I almost feel like I have more security with Robbie Ray because he may give up 2 home runs, but he's probably going to strike out a bunch of people.
You just use the word security with Robbie Ray. Come on, Jordan. Okay, so the argument for Robbie Ray, actually, the projections are a little runaway. I mean, 2 points is 2 points for the top guy over the next guy. That's pretty huge. The difference between Robbie Ray and David Peterson, according to the bat, is the difference between David Peterson and like Dean Kramer. So there's a wide range there, and then when you look at the ceiling, it gets a little bit. It's about the same. It's about 2 points. The Braves have a lot of strikeouts in that lineup. Guys like Sean Murphy, who have done very well against left-handed pitching, are not doing well this year. Orlando Arcia historically has really good, lefty on righty power, but that hasn't really been there this year. You get Michael Harris back in the lineup, but he doesn't really have that much power against lefties. That's the argument for him. And the ballpark. By the way, the ballpark. Like what Coors Field does for a guy like Marcell Ozuna, Oracle Park does for a guy like Robbie Ray. It just suppresses power that much. Now, the argument against Robbie Ray is, again, it's 2024. Do we play a 36% pitcher in 2024? That's the argument against him. The argument against him is that the Braves still have Ozuna. They still have Riley. They still have Olsen. And Ramon Laureano is a pretty good power bat against left-handed pitching historically. That could be a real platoon split there. So you could go either way with it. I stick with Dave Potts on this, that I'm not going to play a 36% Robbie Ray. I don't know who else I'm going to play. I don't have an argument for anyone else. But my first inclination is to try to avoid the Robbie Ray chalk in my contest where, when we're talking about the battery, we could be talking about 58% owned. When we're talking about the $88 batter's eye, we could be talking about 45, 50% owned, not 36 and the $15. So for my contests, I might have to find alternatives. I don't know what the alternatives are at this point. I'm looking at this for the first time as you are, but that's my first inclination.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the next projected pitcher in the bat is David Peterson. Yeah, he's cheaper, $1,300 cheaper, $7,300, facing Oakland.
Facing Oakland.
Right. Well, we said facing Oakland yesterday, and Paul Blackburn seemed to have problems with the A's. Are you all that secure? Are you all that secure? I mean, you say like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to Robbie Ray, too high owned, and then you look at the rest of these pitchers and go, Well, then it's time to slam David Peterson. And I would say I'm not comfortable doing that either.
I'm not comfortable doing that either because I think the Oakland A's are very, very good against left-handed pitching. Citi Field isn't a great place to hit, but anything's a park bump over O.co. They mash left-handed pitching. This is a weird phenomenon where they have like a 225 ISO against left-handed pitching this season, and it's legit. Like these are young right-handed batters who are power prospects, so they should hit soft tossing lefty pitching very hard. So I don't feel good about David Peterson. I mean, you want to go down the list? We can go down the list. Ronel Blanco, Tampa's got a little bit of power. Ronel Blanco doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. He can, he's got that wicked changeup that has been getting people a little more this year than beforehand. But Tampa strikes out quite a bit. Brian Wu is maybe the best real life pitcher on the slate, but his strikeouts have just disappeared. The Tigers strike out a lot, though. I mean, again, you can go either way. There's an argument for, there's an argument against. I'm not playing Alex Cobb in 2024. Dean Kramer against Washington, I might want to stack against him. Zach Littell against Houston, I might want to stack against him. Frankie Montas against the Dodgers, no thank you. Then it gets to Grant Holmes in San Francisco, who's getting he's getting a nice park bump in San Francisco. I mean, Grant Holmes at 7,600, does that give you a second best option there?
He's viable. I mean, he's viable. He's fine. I mean, I look at these guys, I go, Will Warren against the White Sox.
That was the next thing I was going to get to.
I mean, you can. Tyler
Why not?
Phillips
he's a big.
Against the
Will Warren is
okay.
Will Warren walks a lot of guys, but he's a big strikeout prospect. And if we can get, if we can get some strikeouts against the White Sox, and we could just fade one or two walks, if he only walks two guys instead of four guys, we could have a huge outing out of Will Warren.
I mean, then Tyler Phillips against Miami. You got it really cheap. I mean, to me, this is interesting. Edward Cabrera against the Phillies.
Yes.
I typically don't want to play pets. I mean, the Phillies have a 5.14 implied run total, but Cabrera strikes people out. I mean,
he strikes people out. Yeah, it's a good place for power. Philly's kind of an underrated place for power. And Cabrera gives up power, but if you can't get the bat on the ball doesn't go anywhere. I mean, that's just a simple rudimentary logic, right? So he's got strikeout upside for what is he 6K?
Yeah, and typically, I mean, you take a look at. I mean, I'm just looking at game logs as far as home runs allowed. I mean, outside of a 4 home run game at Cincinnati, I mean, he does. I mean, he strikes out people, but he gives up hits. But I mean, some of these, the home run totals, he typically doesn't really give up that many home runs.
Well, he does pitch in Miami. He's got a 10% barrel rate allowed. So when you neutralize that to a decent hitting park, he should give up more power than anyone gives up more power than they give up in Miami.
Right.
But
I mean, his problem is primarily walks. His problem is primarily that, he lets a couple of people on base and then someone gets a double, and next thing you know, 3 earned runs are coming in. To me, I'm more concerned about that. But at 6K, I'm willing to take a shot. I mean, my attitude in GPPs for DFS purposes is not safety. Is not I'd rather my two things, and I always say it on the show, is if I'm going to take a shot, I'm going to take a shot on someone that either has high amount of strikeout potential or a long leash or a pitch count, right? So I take a look at someone like DJ Hurts at 7,500 and go, I don't see either. Strikeout upside, maybe.
There's some strikeout upside with him, but yeah, he's not going to pitch more than 4 2/3.
Right. I mean, that's also the case I always make against Brian Wu, Alex. I mean, when Brian Wu is coming out 78, 82 pitches, 87 pitches, sometimes at the longest, it's like I don't know. He has to be more efficient. Zach Littell is another Grant Holmes. I mean, I look at Robbie. I'm making more of the case for Robbie Ray. Of Robbie Ray could go out and pitch 110 pitches and strike out 10. So it's he has both of those. And
it could take him 110 pitches. It could take him 110 pitches to get 12 outs, though.
Right. And truthfully, I mean, this may sound crazy. I think Frankie Montas also has that potential, but yeah, it's scary to play a pitcher against the Dodgers. But the Dodgers only have a 4.5 implied run total, so it's 7K for Frankie Montas. Like no one's playing. I mean, it's
No.
out of all these. I mean, I don't think outside of Robbie Ray, I don't think any of these pitchers exceed like 20% ownership. I think you'll have a lot of pitchers in that like 8 to 14%. In large field, especially, that like outside of Robbie Ray, if you pick two of these guys, you can make a case. If you like Dean Kramer and Tyler Phillips, I don't think you're crazy. I think that's viable, right? If you like David Peterson and Brian Wu, okay. If you want to play Alex Cobb, I mean, I think that's not crazy. I mean, Walker Buehler's here against Milwaukee.
Do we gamble on the talent of Walker Buehler and Jose Barrios?
Well, I just don't think Walker.
I mean, there's risk everywhere. There's risk everywhere.
Yeah, I just don't think Walker Buehler strikes people out anymore.
I think he's broken, but it's a bet on the fact that maybe he is fixed again because he has talent. Look, the slate sucks for pitching. We're gonna have to suck some hose somewhere.
Right. I mean, look at.
To win on this slate, you're gonna have to suck a golf ball through 6 feet of garden hose.
Yeah, but I don't think Walker Buehler is that. I don't think Walker Buehler is that.
What about Barrios?
I mean, Barrios is okay. I mean, look at all of these guys. I mean, Barrios is fine. I think he's fine.
It's 85.
He projects okay, but I mean, Barrios. At least with Barrios, I could trust that he can pitch 7 innings.
He can pitch 7 innings. He can get you 21 outs.
Right.
He can get you 21 outs against the Angels.
Right.
We get points for outs.
Right. But it's this type of slate. I mean, I'm much more. I think there's going to be a high scoring slate. I think they're going to be there may be 2 or 3 stacks that score a whole bunch, and then you're going to need at least one of them. And it's quite possible pitching wise, like with so many pitchers that project similarly, it's inevitable that one of these guys puts up like 25 plus points, like 28 points, but they may be like 4% owned. I mean, like you don't know which one it's going to be, right? Obviously, Robbie Ray could put up 30 fantasy points at high ownership. Sure, he can. I mean, obviously, but like it's quite possible that just finding 2 of these pitchers to give you 15 points each, 16, 17, if you get 35 points total at pitching, I think that may be fine because as long as you get your hitting right, then you're good. Like it's going to be the type of slate where Brian Wu has 18 points and Zach Littell has 14 points and Grant Holmes has 17.5 points and Montas has 12 points and Ronald Blanco has 21 points. And like, it's all within like this tight range that like, I don't think playing one pitcher over the other, unless there's one big owned outlier, is going to matter as much. You're going to look at the winning lineup and it's going to be a Philly stack with 2 pitchers, 2 of any of these pitchers. And it's,
so
that don't have negative.
So Jordan,
points.
then why are we playing Robbie Ray at 36%?
Well, I think
if 35 points is going to get us there, if a whole mess of guys, like one of these guys is going to score 25 and 15 are going to be in the winning lineup, and we don't know who they are, why are we going to play the 28 to 36% guy?
Only because Robbie Ray.
If we're talking about like 3 lineups, like 3-5 lineups.
True.
I mean,
no, the whole
in
point
MMA, you're not going to fade.
He's the only one on here that I could believe could score 35 points by himself.
Okay, I think that's reasonable.
Right.
He's the only one who can score 35 by himself. I think that's the argument for it.
Right. I would not play Robbie Ray in like the Yankees or a Cardinals line today.
Totally agree. I 100% agree with you because
so it's all about lineup construction.
Yes.
So when people ask questions like, can you go overweight on Robbie Ray or anything like that? It's like it all depends on the lineups that you're playing. Like you
where
could
I
go.
play Robbie Ray, I'm looking at attacking Walker Buehler with the Brewers. I'm looking at attacking DJ Hertz with the Orioles. I'm looking at attacking whatever the Tigers are going to roll up, probably another bullpen game with Seattle. You know, I'm not like it's like you're saying. I don't think I would play the Phillies in a Robbie Ray lineup as well.
Right. Also, the Phillies are expensive. You probably have
Phillies
to
are
play
very
two pitchers
expensive.
anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
let's get to stacks. All right, we got the tiers here. Got 22 teams. That's why we're running through this.
All right.
22 teams, A, B, C, D, and F, as always. This is ownership adjusted. Always remember ownership adjusted, meaning that, you know, the team we think is overowned, they get bumped down. We think the team is underowned, they get bumped up. And, of course, these are 5-man stacks on DraftKings. 5-man stacks on DraftKings. So just because the team is on the bottom doesn't mean you can't play a bat from it, right? But there's some teams that are better at stacking than not, right? Some teams that we look at and go, maybe they give up 2 home runs, but maybe the stack doesn't get there. So maybe the stack gets lower rated. And sometimes price comes into consideration, obviously, right? If the stack is easy and positionally fruitful and cheap, maybe they get bumped up. But also a lot of times they get also overowned. So let's start with the elephant in the room again for the 3rd day in a row. The top projected stack on the slate is the New York Yankees against Davis Martin. They scored 12 runs the other day, and they were an F-tier stack. Obviously, I mean, outside of Soto and Judge, and obviously Soto put up, 3 home runs yesterday. The stack didn't get there yesterday, even when you just needed Soto. Verdugo is still cheap. Wells is still cheap. I mean, like, outside of Soto and Judge, the rest of their lineup is totally affordable. The Yankees, I mean, I'm just going to, it's just concurrently, they're projected as the top stack, but they also are the highest owned stack. There's 22 teams on the slate. Outside of, like, this top kind of tier, everything is kind of in the middle. So as long as the Yankees don't go ham, I think they're just going to be overowned. Doesn't mean you can't play Yankees in your lineup. I just would not play a Robbie Ray Yankees lineup.
I totally agree, and I would have them in the B range. I wish that guys like Ben Rice, I wish that Austin Wells, Giancarlo Stanton were more expensive because I would lower their ownership, and I would put them in the A tier. Then I would find a way to make it work. Pitching is so cheap, and the Yankees are so cheap that if I'm going to go even with the field on Robbie Ray, I have to go lower, maybe even with the field on the Yankees. And then if I want to go higher on the Yankees, I got to play real shit pitching. The lineup construction isn't fantastic for the Yankees, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, I think B is right.
Okay, so let's get to the next 2 teams. The Cardinals against Emilio Pagan, which is probably a bullpen game more than anything. Yeah. And then the Cincinnati Reds against Kyle Gibson, who, I mean, the Reds, 4.75 implied run total. Kyle Gibson is, I mean, he strikes people out, but I mean, he could give up home runs. I mean, he's been solid.
He's not giving up a lot of home runs. It's just 1 home run per 9. His barrel rate is 9%, but at like half this slate gives up a 9% or more barrel rate. So that's not on a normal 9-game slate where he's one of 5 guys with a high barrel rate. I would like the Reds a lot more in this ballpark.
Alex, I just think that, like, St. Louis, I think is going to be overowned. I would put him in the B tier also, maybe even the C tier based on ownership.
I would put him in the C tier. I'd put him on the C tier. I might not play any Cardinals. I might not play any Cardinals tonight because you have to full stack them, and I don't want to full stack them at that ownership.
And also the thing about bullpen games, Alex, that people don't get is that most of these guys are going to face only going to see a pitcher for 1 at bat.
Once, yeah,
right. Once. Even though the bullpen may not be great, they're only going to see a pitcher for 1 at bat, and also much more likely to to play the whole platoon game, lefty, righty, pinch hit, that type of stuff. So I'm bumping the Cardinals down, but I'm putting the Reds in the A tier. I don't think people are going to play. They're playing in Cincinnati. I don't think people want to. I don't. really want
wow.
stacking against Kyle Gibson, but I don't think anyone's. They're the highest projected team that you could play because price doesn't matter that much. The pitching is cheap enough.
You're right. I'm looking at our top sacks page, and we have the Cincinnati sack projected for 3.4%. That's phenomenal. So yeah, I agree with you. I could slip them into A. I was thinking they would be much more owned than that.
No, I think so much of the ownership is going to the Yankees and the Cardinals.
Yeah,
right.
Once
you get away from the Yankees, the Cardinals, and maybe the Blue Jays a little bit because of price.
Phillies are going to. I think people are going to find a way to play Phillies. The pitching is cheap.
So people are going to find a way to play the Phillies against Edward Cabrera.
They're going to play Rays.
What tier would you put them on? Do you put them on the C tier because you think they're going to be too high owned? What do you?
I'm going to put them in the B tier only because when I don't play Robbie Ray, the pitching is so cheap. I'm going to play two crappy pitchers. I'm going to be able to fit them in. Okay. I think lineup construction is going to be easier than I think you're making it because we don't have 10K, 10.5K pitchers.
Am I crazy to say I'd rather play Edward Cabrera than the Phillies today?
Why not both?
Well, not in the same lineup, obviously.
Yeah, not in the same lineup, but
right.
No, I'm gonna have both. I will have Phillies. If I play 3 lineups, I will have Phillies and I'll have a Phillies full stack, and I will have Cabrera in another lineup. If I play 5 lineups, I'll probably have a full Phillies stack, maybe a mini stack of Phillies, and one Cabrera. He's 6K. I mean, if I'm not playing Phillies, I want to play the 6K strikeout guy. I want to have exposure to the 6K strikeout guy.
Another team very similar to the Phillies in price and, stack potential, good offense is the Dodgers against Frankie Montas. Do you put the Dodgers in the same class as the Phillies? That, they should be a B tier team? Even though, to me, I don't know. Maybe I'm nuts on this slate, but I feel like I'd rather play Montas than the Dodgers today. I see all these teams in like the middle that could possibly that projects for like 2 or 3 points lower on average as a 5-man stack that could come in at could just easily just accidentally come in at 1% ownership. That I feel like the Phillies and the Dodgers will be lower owned, but not low owned. And the 2 points isn't worth it for me to play a whole bunch of teams that, to me, have about as much potential as scoring 8+ runs on the slate than anyone else based on their matchups.
As a 5-man full stack, I would probably put the Dodgers in the C tier because I don't want to play 5. I don't want to play Kike Hernandez and Gavin Lux. Congratulations, you hit a hometown home run last night. I don't want to play Gavin Lux. I really don't want to play Andy Paez on the right side. I like Ohtani as a one-off. Because he's Shohei Ohtani. Spoiler alert. Freddie Freeman is probably a good one-off too. But it's a 5-man stack. It's Frankie Montas doesn't give up that much power relative to the rest of the pitchers on this slate. He doesn't give up that much power. So I'd slip him in the C tier because as a 5-man stack, it's not that appealing.
Here's a team that's going to be surprising that I think is, you mentioned before, I think they're an A-tier team today because they typically don't project this well. And because they typically don't project well, yeah, there you go. You mentioned it for me. The Seattle Mariners against Bo Brisky. This is the this is the team when I mentioned could accidentally go 1% owned. Just people just completely overlooked it. Just they project in the bat as an average 5-man stack, they project 0.11 lower than the Phillies. The Phillies may be 6%, 7% owned today, while the Mariners just accidentally go maybe not 1%, but significantly under owned. That I'll take a shot. I'll take a shot on the Mariners. I think they're a B tier team just by projection. So just by ownership, I'm going to bump them up to the A tier.
They have a lot of power, and they win, something that I don't really pay attention to the standings much, but I was surprised to see that Seattle wins a lot of ball games. They win a lot of ball games. We're so focused on the strikeouts and DFS. They win a lot of ball games because they have a lot of power and they have some really good pitching. But that power, against what is Detroit's bullpen like? Does it matter? I don't think there are anything in the margins that probably
can't be
matters.
very
They probably
good.
don't matter. No, it's not very good. They give up some dongs. I'm seeing a 412 xFIP for the active guys, which is pretty. I like the Mariners' power. If I'm playing Robbie Ray in single entry, I'm probably full stacking the Mariners.
Now we have a whole bunch of teams in this like middle range. We got the Mets against Estes, the Blue Jays against Tyler Anderson, the Angels against Berrios, and the Guardians against Tyon. Alex, where would you put the Mets, the Blue Jays, the Angels, the Guardians?
Let me check the ownership on the Mets really quick. Oh, okay, 7.73%. Of course, they're like right around 8%. I like the Mets a lot to score a lot of runs. I don't like the ballpark. So I'm going to slip them in the B tier because of the ballpark. And I wish they were like 5% owned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to be that. I don't think
this is a pitcher. Joey Estes, the wheels have to fall off on this guy. This guy gives up a lot of hard hit balls. And maybe it's an Oakland thing that he's getting kind of lucky. He gives up a 204 ISO. I mean, the 204 ISO, 9.4% barrel rate, 11% to lefties, to 11.7% to lefties. I'd slip them in the B tier. I think the Mets have a lot of power to take against a bad power prevention pitcher.
And how about the Blue Jays against Tyler Anderson? They're a cheap team to stack, but Tyler Anderson is definitely not the pitcher that I stack against.
No, he's not a pitcher I stack against. I'd slip him in the D tier because Toronto doesn't have a lot of power outside of Vlad. I don't want to stack 3 of these guys, let alone 5 of them. But Tyler Anderson is a regression candidate. If you look at his ERA versus all the advanced stuff like xERA and the Sierra, he's supposed to get blown up some point, and it's a good park for home runs. So I'd slip him in the D tier for MME. I'd want to sprinkle him in 5 lineups. I'm not playing any of them.
How about the Angels against Berrios and the Guardians against Tyon? Like, I'm going to put the Angels. I mean, maybe the C or the D tier, and I think the Cleveland Guard. I don't think Jameson Tyon may be done. I'm going to put the Guardians in the D tier.
Isn't Jose Berrios kind of like Chris Bassett in that he's really, really good against right-handed hitting? And the Angels attack you from the right side with power outside of like Mickey Moniak. I mean, is Mickey Moniak? I mean, am I going to build a 5-man stack around Mickey Moniak and Taylor Ward? Probably not. I'm going to slip in the D tier.
But are you down with the Guardians being in the B tier against Tyon?
On this slate, I think a lot of home runs are going to be hit on this slate, and I don't like the Guardians' lack of power, so I slip them in the C tier, but I agree with you on Jameson Tyon.
Okay, then we start getting into, we're still in the mid-range. I mean, half the teams we're mentioning today are all projected kind of within a point of each other. The Nationals against Dean Kramer. You mentioned that you're looking to stack against Kramer. The Rays against Ronel Blanco. The Brewers against Walker Buehler. I'm not thrilled about playing any of these teams. I mean, like, I don't think you're nuts. I mean, I don't think any of these teams are F tier, but I can't see putting anyone. I mean, none of these teams are B tier to me. Like,
no.
The Nationals have the best. I mean, I'd rather play the Nationals than Dean Kramer, but they're also the Nationals. The other 2 teams are probably better hitting wise, but I don't want to play the Rays against Blanco. And even though Walker Buehler is probably done, he's done from a strikeout perspective, but he's not that bad of a pitcher. He's just entering his contact pitching type of days, control pitching, and that's typically not conducive to a 5-man stack scoring 12 runs.
I think I would slip the Brewers in the C tier. Wait, what? Let me check this first. I have to check what Walker Buehler's ownership is. Okay,
no, he's not going to be owned. He's not going to be owned.
It's 5%. Yeah, so no, I'd slip him in the D tier. I think you're right about everything on Buehler. I think with we were talking about the Rays against Blanco.
Yeah,
Blanco's another big time regression candidate like Tyler Anderson. He gets hit a lot harder than Tyler Anderson. Tampa's not the worst place for home runs. It's not a hitter's park, but it's not a bad place for home runs. Tampa's got Brandon Lau. They've got Christopher Morel. They've got Josh Lowe. Is Yandy Diaz? Yandy Diaz is hitting third now. I'm not enthused about it. Jose Caballero's got speed. There's a 5-man stack right there. I think I like them in the C tier.
And then how about the
Nationals? I don't know what to do with the Nationals because Dean Kramer might be the worst pitcher on the slate in terms of guys who've qualified for innings pitched. And Jesus Christ, because the Nationals are so bad, I have to slip them in the C tier because I'm going to play a lot of them. They're affordable. I think James Wood is a guy I want to stack around. CJ Abrams is a guy I could stack around. Am I enthused about playing Alex Call? Probably not, but I want to find a way to play 5 guys against Dean Kramer. Period. Okay. It's all Dean Kramer though.
Okay, continuing down the list, we got the Cubs. Like these next 4 teams all project about the same and about a point less than the other teams we just mentioned. The Cubs against Alex Cobb. The Orioles against DJ Hers, the Giants against Grant Holmes, and the Astros against Zach Littell. Price-wise, these are all like run-of-the-mill. I mean, they're average price stacks. Like I said, price probably doesn't matter all that much on the slate. I'm not enthused. I mean, to me, the Orioles are the best hitting team out of this bunch. I'm not sure how on the Orioles are going to be. But it's the only team that I would. The Astros are a little too excited. The Astros are much more likely to just play as one-offs.
Yeah.
Than a stack.
Than 5-man stacks. Yeah.
Right. So, like to me, I put the Astros in the D tier as a stack.
As a full 5-man stack.
As a full 5-man stack, and the Orioles maybe in the C tier for that. Also, and then everyone else, like the Cubs, the Giants, D at best.
This is the thing with the Orioles. DJ Hurts gets a lot of strikeouts, but when he gets hit very hard. He's got double-digit barrel rate allowed. It's the Orioles. The Orioles are a great offense. I could slip the Orioles into the A or B tier if they're under 5% owned. They're under 5% owned. I could slip them into the A tier if I'm spending money. If I'm playing 2 cheap pitchers, which there are a lot of cheap pitchers. They're not good pitchers, but everyone's kind of cheap after Robbie Ray. And 8,600 is cheap in itself. So, I could buy into the Orioles as an A tier team. I'd probably slip them in the B right now. I'm probably not playing them in single entry. So I guess I should just say B.
And you agree with the Astros.
And then I agree with the Astros as a stack. I think I like the Astros a lot as a mini stack, though. Like, I could single entry them as a mini stack. The Cubs, Alex Cobb is like, he's not going to get blown up. He's Alex Cobb. I could even stick them in the F tier. I'm not playing 5 Cubs.
Right. Well,
I'm just not going to play 5 Cubs.
Yeah. The D tier to me is always, you're not crazy for doing it, but I'm not.
Is Alex Cobb? I don't think. Yeah. Alex Cobb and the Cleveland bullpen. The Cleveland bullpen is the best in baseball. Am I wrong on that? Are they the best bullpen in baseball? So if you get 4 innings out of Alex Cobb and then 5 innings out of the Cleveland bullpen, I'm not touching the Cubs. I think it's
okay, but I think if you're playing large field and 150 max, if you want to play a Cubs lineup, I don't think you're crazy.
You want to play a Cubs lineup?
I'm not. I'm not doing 2%.
It. So if they were 5%, would you say hell no?
No, but they're not going to be 5%, Alex. They're not
going to be. No, I'm just saying. Hypothetically speaking, they're 2%. But if they were 5%, that would change?
No, at 5%, they'd be an F tier. They'd be an F tier.
They'd be an F tier. Okay. We agree. We're on the same page then.
And then the Giants. The Giants, you're not crazy, but I'm not, or are they even worse? We have a running theme, Alex. We have a running theme on this show, especially when DJ produces, that we never play the Giants. So the Giants just automatically get bumped down when DJ produces. The Giants ever win a slate? They're facing Grant Holmes in San Francisco.
San Francisco, they never
on the slate.
In San Francisco.
Right. So just that.
They never win a slate in San Francisco against a righty. I mean, it has to be a really terrible lefty for me to play a giant stack in San Francisco.
Okay, last 4 teams. Okay. Some of these are cheap. These are cheap. These are cheap teams, except for one. One's not that cheap. Let's go with the not so cheap team. The A's against David Peterson. David Peterson, I don't think he's going to be like super owned. He may end up being 22% owned, but I don't think he's going to be 1,000,000% owned. The A's against Peterson, just in City Field, like, good luck to you. Like, I mean, I'd put him in the F tier, but can you make a case that they should be in the D tier?
I would make the case that they should be in the C tier just because they have a lot of power against lefties. They get a park bump. David Peterson's a soft tosser. We could compromise on a D tier. In MME, I would have a good amount of A's. Let's see. I have to check. At 2%, I mean, we can go overweight. 5 out of 100 lineups were overrated. We're overweight on the A's. I could do that.
How about, okay.
You getting the Larry David,
Yeah, just I'm not. I'd rather take a shot on one of these teams. These are all cheap teams. The White Sox against Will Warren, the Marlins against Tyler Phillips, the Tigers against Brian Wu. My first inclination is that although I play Brian Wu less than most people, I don't stack against Brian Wu. So I put the Tigers in the F tier. Can you make a case why other than hometown bias, why you should play the White Sox or the Marlins today?
So Will Warren, I'm looking this up now, 95 and 2/3 innings against AAA pitchers. He gave up 18 home runs. That is 1.69 home runs per 9 innings against AAA hitters. If you make the case that the White Sox are a AAA lineup, that's the argument for them being a D tier. It's a AAA lineup, and he gave up 18 homers to AAA hitters. So that's the argument.
And how about the Marlins? The Marlins, there's just no argument.
There's just no argument. I mean, they're effing terrible. The argument is they get a ballpark bump, but I think Tyler Phillips is actually a decent real life pitcher.
Last team that we forgot. I saved them to the end. Robbie Ray, going to be chalky at least. The Braves were not cheap, but I mean, if you're not playing Robbie Ray, you're probably playing a 7K pitcher, and you could fit in, whatever stack you want. The Atlanta Braves project like right in the middle of the pack, according to the bat. They probably will be one of the lower owned teams. They may not be as low owned as like the Marlins because, I don't know how many people are playing the Marlins today. But if a guy's going to be 35% owned, 40% owned possibly, Robbie Ray could implode. I mean, can you make it? I'm auto putting them in the D tier just due to leverage. But are they a good enough team and there's enough leverage that maybe the Braves should be a C tier team today?
I was going to say they should be a B tier team because 36% is a lot of ownership. And in single entry, where I think Robbie Ray is going to push 55%, the Braves just have a lot of power. I mean, Jorge Soler, 12.5% barrel rate. Austin Riley, 13.9. Marcell Ozuna, 18.1. Matt Olson, 10.6 lefty on lefty. Ramon Laureano, 11.4. Sean Murphy's not getting it done this year, but he's done it in the past against lefties. Orlando Arcia not doing it this year, but he's done it in the past against lefties. Michael Harris in a big ballpark. If we're going to say the ballpark is a bad park for homers, it's a good park for Michael Harris to get some triples, right? Yeah, I mean, the ownership on Robbie Ray is just so astronomical that I have to put them in the B tier. The Braves just have too much power. If the Braves were the Mariners, where they had a lot of power but so many strikeouts and were able to implode themselves, I would stick them in the C or D tier. But they're not. I think the Braves have a lot of power. Robbie Ray gives up a lot of power. Robbie Ray can strike out 7 guys in 4 innings and give up 7 runs and 4 home runs in the process.
He could. I'm much more inclined, Alex, in my lineups to play Braves one-offs than a stack. But I totally think they're stack. I mean, I think totally stack. I mean, my inclination on this slate, I'm playing 3 lineups. As of right now, I'm going to play a Reds lineup, a Mariners lineup, and then I have to decide what to do. I probably will not play the Phillies today. I probably won't play the Yankees today. I don't think I'm playing the Mets today. So maybe I do play. Maybe Baltimore. Maybe, or maybe I play. Maybe I play a chalkier, like kind of semi-chalk Cardinals lineup with like a weird, 3-man Braves.
You gotta get weird
like
with pitching. Yeah.
Right.
You gotta get weird with. I mean, pitching with your optimal lineup, pitching is gonna feel weird. With an A/B stack, your pitching is gonna feel weird. To take on the ownership of the Cardinals, you gotta get really weird. You gotta get nuts.
Right.
Like.
But I could see like if you wanted to play like Braves, like you're playing a non-Ray lineup and you play like 2 Braves, like that could be a Yankee stack. Like if you want to play the Yankees today, like that would be, to me, that's the way to do it. So you play it in a non-Ray lineup and then you get the even extra leverage by playing Braves bats against that ownership to make up for the difference of playing like a 27% owned Gleyber Torres in your lineup or something.
That's good lineup construction. I think my first inclination is to full stack the Mariners with the mini stack of the Braves. I wish the Yankees.
But you'd be playing Alex. You'd be playing Robbie Ray in that type of lineup. I mean, what would be the point of not? You don't need any more ownership leverage, so just play Ray.
I was going to say, if I'm playing Ray, then that's probably the way I would go. I don't know if I can. God, 58% for Robbie Ray. I have this number in my head, 58%. I don't know why, but in single entry, for people who don't know, especially in the higher dollar, the chalk gets inflated, the middle class gets deflated, and it gets pushed down to like the lower class of ownership. So, I just know that it's going to be heavily inflated.
Yeah, but I mean, but pitching is you're much more likely to eat the chalk at pitching today than if you want to eat Yankees as the stack. I mean, I feel like there's just the same for pitching. I just feel like there's so many spots that you could attack from a hitting perspective that if I end up with Robbie Ray in my lineup, and then that's what I end up with him in my lineup, I don't think the ownership's going to get that out of hand, even in smaller fields.
At hitting, no. But Robbie Ray himself.
Even at pitching,
I just think that. No, you're right. No one's going to be more than like 18% after Ray. It's going to be like the next guy's going to be like 18%. I have no idea who that guy's going to be. But it's not going to be like a guy's not going to be 28% owned as the SP2.
Right. But like I said earlier,
shitty lineup comes out
about hitting is that a lot of like Cincinnati, Seattle, Baltimore, New York, the Mets, definitely the Braves because of leverage. Like there's going to be a stack here, Tampa Bay, that comes in at like 1% owned for no reason. And if they put up a ton of I just feel like there's going to be a certain headway towards a couple of these teams, and it's going to leave like a whole bunch of ownership available for some low-owned stack to go off it's weird for me to say that I'd rather just eat the chalk pitching in that case and play Ray plus Ray plus one of
Seattle and Washington.
Right. Like that I feel like from a projection standpoint, I'm going to run lineups and be like, why am I playing lineups that are 3 points lower projected for the same ownership just because they don't have Robbie Ray like in it? Just so like no Robbie Ray, that means I play like an Aaron Judge one-off. It's like, why do I want to do? Why do I want to eat the ownership that I'm shedding for Ray on like a chalk one-off bat when I could just play the pitcher, right? Because that's what's going to end up happening if you run lineups. You're going to run lineups and you're going to end up with some chalk Yankee, chalk Cardinal one-off guy, and I don't want to do that because typically, if the chalk one-off guy goes, the stack goes. I mean, obviously Soto hit 3 home runs yesterday. That's a aberration.
Anomaly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But typically I don't want to do that. So it's like, if I'm going to shed ownership, I'd rather just shed ownership by not playing I could be playing like several 4%, 2% owned guys in my stack. I'll eat a 40% Robbie Ray in that spot. I mean, just right.
That's why when we were talking about this, I think you have to slip the Orioles into. That's why I slipped a great offense like the Orioles, which is right on par with the Yankees in terms of how they perform. against a pitcher who's very boom bust. You know, we've got a lot of that on today's slate. We have some strikeout pitchers who give up power against power lineups, right? We've got so I think that's why I think I'm heavily considering Baltimore if I'm going to play Robbie Ray. If I'm not playing Robbie Ray, I could play the Yankees. I could probably play the Yankees and the Braves if I'm not playing Robbie Ray.
Right, of course. If you're not playing Robbie Ray, you can pretty much do anything you want.
I can do anything I want, and I can.
And if you if you don't play any Yankees, you can pretty much do whatever you want, also.
Well, if you don't play Ray and Yankees, just sort by projections at that point,
right?
And you're probably fine.
Easy slate,
easy game. Maybe that's the answer. We just came up with the answer in 50-something minutes.
Alex, what other content do you have going on here at RotoGrinders? Anything coming up for MLB, NFL season?
So I do prize picks just about every day. I do the expert survey a couple times a week. This week I'm doing it every day. I write my Stacks article on Tuesdays and Fridays. I'm not at Fangraphs anymore because they do not value DFS content. I love Fangraphs. All respect to them in the world. I thank them for the shot they gave me. They do not value DFS content, which I don't understand because a large portion of how their site is utilized is by people like us for DFS content.
DFS and props as well.
And props and prize picks, you know. I mean, if Fangraphs got into the DFS content business with their models and what they have, that they could create something that would compete. I shouldn't suggest this out loud. They're not going to take my advice anyway.
Their business model tends to be to just beg for money.
It's beg for money and put out like athletic type articles, try to compete with the Athletic on baseball content. Like, why are you going to do that? The Athletic has New York Times money behind them. They want to put out like, not, you know, wax poetically on Trevor Rogers and shit like that. Like, anyway, I'm not the editor in chief over there. I will never be the editor in chief over there. That's my rant on Fangraphs right now.
Okay, so check all that stuff out. A lot of Alex's stuff is free. Some of it is behind the paywall. So join RotoGrinders Premium today. Be part of our Discord. Get all the premium content for all the sports, especially with NFL coming up. Right, the combo premium package. You get $40 off your first month. So click on that link in the description to find out all the information there. You can follow me on Twitter at BlenderHD as usual. We got Grinders Live, 5 p.m. Eastern later today. Dean and the guys. They'll be breaking this down with all the updated starting lineups and everything like that. And then Roth will be on at 6:05 p.m. Eastern for crunch time for any weather updates and last minute Q&A for leading up until lock. But I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll be on early Grinders Live. I'll be on with Dean. And then Friday, Mike H3 Buddha will be on. We'll be talking about the UFC pay-per-view card, the DFS slate for that. But that's what I do here. I'm always here Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about. Daily fantasy, props, and pick 'em on RotoGrinders Today.